I've said it before in this podcast as well, I find it very difficult to disseminate my personality from my bipolarity. Yeah, because they're so intertwined. It's like a helix, a DNA helix.
That's my point, though, with all of it, mate. That's why I asked you the question I wanted to ask. I knew that was tricky. Because there isn't, mate. If I was exactly how I wanted to be and didn't give a flying you-know-what about anyone, then I'd be manic again, mate. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm manic, because I'm not. But my personality is eccentric.
And my mum would hear something she didn't like the sound of, and she would look at me and she would say, Ian, I think it's time you had a chat with your doctor.
Yeah, and that would be so
annoying, because there would be times when she would say that, and I knew for a fact I wasn't manic.
Mate, okay, so okay, so right, and I have to do this now, right? So we've got 14 minutes now. Right. No, it's fine. We've got 14 minutes left, and I think this is the most important question. And this isn't, do you know what? This is for everyone else. I'm doing this podcast for everyone else, but this question is for me. And if it can help people, great. And I think, I 100% know that your experience is better than mine, after having said everything you said, and the fact that self-confessedly you've said that you're old, which you're not, by the way. How do you best deal? And again, like, I will reiterate my sympathies about your mum. It genuinely makes me sad, so I'm not going to go on about it.
And she was an educated lady as well.
I'm sure she was, mate.
She got a master's degree in art history at Cambridge University.
That's insane.
And her graduation pictures look like something out of Hogwarts, with all the costumes and all the traditional stuff.
So my question before I probably start crying, okay, because I am really tired still. Tiredness doesn't just go away. You need to go to sleep. But essentially, my question to you is, how best, throughout the years of your bipolarity, have you dealt with and I'm not going to say family, I'm going to say your loved ones, because there's a lot of people I love and vice versa in this world, right? So,
okay.
Yeah.
Some people get it, and they get it completely. That's either through intelligence, emotional intelligence, or empathy. Some people get it to a degree, and that's all right, because they're making an effort to understand, and that's all good. Some people don't really get it, and that's all right. I mean, they can be acquaintances. There might be limits to how close I get to them. Some people don't get it at all and are trying to avoid them. I mean, if they've been friends even for years and they really don't get it, they come around and say things like, I took it personally when I was actually depressed.
Oh, mate, I don't care, because this is someone I've flushed. And for the record, I don't know if I've flushed them forever or they'll come back into my life. I don't know. But
I've had some good people come back after I thought I'd flushed them for good.
Oh, mate, yeah, even
and we've had a chat, and we've built an understanding, and we've ended up with a stronger relationship, with a stronger friendship.
Oh, mate, and that's the plan for all of the flushers. But I'm also aware that, like, that's like, life just doesn't work like that. But if I was to say that someone who was one of my favourite people in the world had said to me throughout the whole of our friendship I was going to be his best man, and then one night I got drunk and he said, I can say pissed because you said pissing, didn't you?
I'm saying...
What have you done, Ian? What have you done to my podcast? My reputation, my life? Right? This person, I got so drunk because that person had affected me. Right? He knows that. Two things I can't stand. Most importantly, someone that ignores me and unprofessionalism and everything that those two entail, right? I don't need to go into it because you've just done that smile, which suggests you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? The fact is this person hurt me, right? With his words, and actually with his lack of words. I then got so drunk because I was so depressed, and I ended up drinking more alcohol that wasn't mine, kicking up a fuss, and getting in a cab and just not remembering anything.
Someone I'd known for quite a few years, we had a falling out, and the last thing he said to me is, and he did it in a perfect Mean Girls voice, He said, well, I hope you don't get hideously depressed after this manic episode that you seem to be having. Now, that's like saying to an asthmatic, well, I hope you don't end up wheezing when you come into contact with dog or cat hair, or saying to someone with OCD, well, I'd hope you don't end up standing at the sink, washing your hands over and over. That's just bipolar 101. All he's done in his particularly good Mean Girls sarcastic voice is point out the frickin' obvious.
Mate, if I can be as blunt as to say it and I'm going to do it, that's like saying to a cancer patient, I hope you don't die.
I hope you don't lose all your hair when you go through chemo.
But, mate, you're right. and that's the point. To finish off that story, for the whole time I'd known him, I was going to be his best man. He told me. He told his ex-girlfriend. He told everyone. He didn't
You
tell
mentioned
everyone.
this when we talked after.
Yeah. And essentially, he then... I didn't even know if I was... I didn't even know... Not if I was going to be best man. I was well aware of that. And another person I flushed at that time... And I don't care how brutal this is, because if they're listening, they don't know this, right? He basically said, you're now not coming on the stag do. So I was best man, but I wasn't even on the stag do. 2 months before the wedding, I didn't even know if I was still invited. And I had to ask him, right? This was after I told him exactly what I thought of him and nothing changed. And the other person uninvited me to a boys' holiday, right? Because I was so depressed that I had to drink through it. So that's essentially, again, I'll use the cancer thing, and I'm sorry to do this, but this is how I feel. Cancer is as strong as bipolar. Bipolar is horrendous, and it kills people. It's probably at a higher rate than cancer. I don't know that, but
yeah,
right.
I understand the analogy, but unlike cancer, bipolar is more easily affected by other people's behaviour around you. They can make things worse. I've heard of instances with people with mental disorders, and they've said that the prejudice and the stigma were worse than the disorder. Mate,
that's why I asked you the question about your loved ones. Because it's only taken until literally, like, I keep saying every day, I have kept saying every day for 3 months, Ian, that, this is the last day that I'm going to stop justifying myself. I have to draw the line at some point and say I'm not justifying myself anymore. Because the point is, why should I be I literally went back to those two men and was like, oh, mate, yeah, it was me. Like someone with cancer, sorry to keep bringing it up, but someone with cancer being like, I'm so sorry that I was bald and didn't have any eyelashes and that I nearly died. I'm really sorry about that. Like, it was my fault. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't my fault. It was their fault, because they're horrible people. And that's the point. Like, this is what I'm saying. I'm literally in a situation, even right now, and the people who know it. So I don't even need to mention names, or even mention the fact that it's people, right? I'm in a position where I'm literally having to do everything I can to convince people I'm not ill. And even to the point of one of the best people in my whole entire life. I made so much effort in. So much, mate. You have no idea how much. Right? And he still then turned around and was like, well, you know. And it's like, no, actually, I don't know anymore. Because what else do you want me to do? Apart from literally go and sit on a desert island and never speak to you again.
There have been times when I've been particularly manic and I've explained to people how I'm feeling. And they've said, but you seem really calm.
Oh, you seem...
I said, it's like a duck in water, because it may look serene above the water level, but there's a hell of a lot going on underneath.
Yeah, but you know, I made that analogy to myself the other day, mate. Right? You know the analogy of swans, right? You know, they're as you said, duck, right? But swan, duck, whatever it is, right? They're graceful on the top, and their legs are going mental underneath. Actually, if you watch a swan, the majority of the time, they're just gliding. They're not going crazy under the water. They're just gliding. And I thought that the other day. I thought that literally yesterday. I was coming back from a person who should have paid me for my time and didn't. and won't. And I'll never see him again, right? He's a bad person, in my opinion. But I thought of that analogy on the way back because I was like, I'm managing Racing Thoughts right now. I've been managing Racing Thoughts on this podcast, believe it or not. And I've proven that by saying the parking ticket thing. That was a racing thought. Mate, I talk a lot. And the control and the management that I have is that I want to know all about you so much that the whole time... How many times have I said it even on this podcast? I'm like, there's so many things I want to say. To normal people in normal life...
Third one.
Yeah, exactly. To normal people in normal life, I just interrupt them. My girlfriend is an absolute saint. She's hardly said a word since I've met her. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't have a filter with her, and that's the point. Like, I literally... You can be a swan, right? And if the water is right, you don't ever have to be Racing Thoughts. You just glide elegantly. You're beautiful, Ian. You can glide. Do you know what I mean? You know, but it's true. Like, you can just do that and actually look. Again, it's not red. It's not red. I've literally seen it with my own eyes. Swans don't go crazy with their feet. They do sometimes, like we do, like anyone does. If you exercise, if you're running around a football field, right? Cristiano Ronaldo runs around a football field like and I'm sorry to say this, maniac. But is he bipolar? No, he's just the best sportsman in the world. But people don't look at him and go... oh, he might be a bit manic because he's just run 12 miles today.
Gazza's bipolar.
Yeah. And look at how much torment he's had through his life. I cry when he cries, mate. Because I feel it. I didn't even know he was bipolar. I could guess it, and it doesn't surprise me. But look at him.
Genuine. He's
suffered so much, and that's just because he followed his dream of becoming a footballer. Everyone loved him because he's an amazing guy, and because everyone loved him so much, the media essentially tried to kill him. You know, this is
it. The media will quite often pick up on celebrities who have bipolar and other disorders, and the headline will be Gazza does something wacky or Britney Spears does something wacky. There will be no insight, there will be no context in terms of their diagnosis and the fact that they're dealing with their bipolarity or whatever. I'm
not going to mention the word again, Ian, right? But, right, Steve Jobs, look at the press that he got when he was dying. It was all love. This guy has made technology and he's absolutely amazing, right? And you just said Britney Spears. What did they do with Britney Spears? Who's going through the same torment, if not worse, right? They just vilify her. The same for Gazza, the same for Amy Winehouse, as you said before, who's bipolar. The same for someone like Russell Brand. The same for Carrie Fisher.
I'm not sure about Amy.
Oh, did you not say that?
I'm not sure. I have a list of what I think are definites or very certain if it's people being diagnosed after they've died.
Well, mate, watch that documentary. And anyone else that hasn't seen it, there's an amazing... It's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. I think it's called Reclaiming Amy. And it's told through Mitch, her dad, and her mum. I can't remember what her name was, right?
I'm going to put that on my list.
Mate, honestly, because her mum suffers with MS. And her mum's husband says... This is the last opportunity she's going to get to tell the story. And they talk very openly about her mental health struggles. And whether she is or not, I can't even remember. I was so encapsulated by that documentary that, to be honest, I can't remember. Even though the word bipolar is a massive trigger for me. But I'm almost certain that she was. For my own experience. But anyway,
sure.
We are 40 minutes off, mate. So as I always do, I'm going to say thank you. And is there anything else that you'd like to say before I say my line?
You do your line.
Is that it? Well, look, thank you, Ian. It was an absolute pleasure.
No problem. It's really good. I enjoy it. It's very helpful. It's a dynamic that I'm not used to at all. Hence the
Yeah, exactly.
But I think they're getting better.
You absolutely
put a cap on them.
Keep smiling and stay good, everyone. Thank you so much to Ian again. Absolutely amazing.